I was asked to make some comments on the sessions, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, so well done to the team who organised for such a great set of speakers today. I'm glad to see so many research experts here today. We had, obviously, Brainjuicer yesterday. For those of you who don't know, Brainjuicer are running a model on the Trump-Clinton experience. Let's not call it an election experience. And you can go and have a look at it. What they are predicting to win, and it's based obviously on an algorithm, is that Trump's hair, because it has a better fame index. So there we are. We're going to be run, the Western world is going to be run by Trump's hair. Obviously, we had Kantar and the wonderful Paddy Barwise. Evidence and data came up a lot in all the sessions. And I think part of the challenge I've got for you today in the audience is to listen to one of two things. I don't think data and evidence are the same thing, and I'm starting to hear a bit of interchangeability. And it felt a bit like saying, we really need bricks, we need to understand bricks more because homes are really important. I think it's really very important that we decide that data is about doing something for us, and I'll come back to why in a minute, because I think we run the risk, if we're not careful, and this is Effectiveness Week, of understanding the cost of everything and the value of nothing, and that is where data can drive us if you're not very careful. And there is a tension, and all the speakers talked about this tension between the ROI short-term metrics that you can get and customer value metrics. And the challenge again for you, I think, is to create evidence from the data about outcome rather than outputs, because customer value obviously is the outcome and the measurement statistics are outputs. And that definition, I think, is quite important. And HBR, Harvard Business Review, did start a conversation about whether the best way of analysing corporate performance was on customer value rather than shareholder value. And I do think that marketers could take that championing a further stage than they have. Because I actually think that the problem with data and data scientists, bless, we need them, we need more of them than we've got, is that they tend to do things just because they can do things. You know, it's not because they should. So the challenge to marketers for the data people is to be the definers, to create the brief. And I think if you don't do that, you're going to start getting this sort of mass extinction event that was being predicted for the rest of marketing. I do think that definition becomes one of those really important things. It sounds boring, but you need to have to do. Spiegelhalter, who's a Cambridge professor of risk, talked to the MRS conference about how important definition was in statistics. And he pointed out that for the British Sex Survey, one of the key definition problems is what is sex. So, you know, it is a problem, but we need to do something for it. What I'd like to do is spend just 2 minutes talking about the fight back of those dinosaurs and trying to avoid the mass extinction event. PricewaterhouseCoopers published for us the value of the evidence sector. We call our sector the business of evidence. It's 4.8 billion. It's risen about 62%. Most of that, a lot of that in data analytics, as you would expect, but nearly 50% rise in qualitative research. Now that, I think, is very important. People don't spend money unless they think they need to spend money. And the client sectors who responded to this survey actually said the importance of qualitative would rise. And that's clearly about setting context for your data, defining what questions your data should ask, and possibly also about interpreting data back to the organization, because data is beautiful to data scientists, but it can be pretty darn incomprehensible to the rest of us. I once had a minister who said that he believed thoroughly in my strategy on reducing domestic violence amongst women and getting them out of violent situations. This is when I moved to the government. You can tell, shell to the government, makes sense. He believed it and he would do what he could. We actually put him in front of some of the research showing the women and talking about their experience. And apart from the fact he cried, so I won't tell you which minister it was, he actually said he believed it so much he was going to make sure it happened. So I think this translation piece is very important, and a number of the speakers talked about it today. And as a further iteration, if we could get the slide up, please, we would like in the MRS to launch a piece of work today on creating an insight-driven organisation. Don't know if we've got thank you. It's called Towards an Insight-Driven Organisation, because we don't think anyone knows how to get there yet. It's forward is by the wonderful Paddy Barwise, and he has marked our homework, and I think it's fair to say that he thinks that more work is needed. He makes several of the points, and in this we make several of the points that you'll have heard from Kantar today, that none of this is any good unless you reach out to the organisation and engage with them. It sounds bleedingly obvious, but I think you'll find not enough is done in this area. It does make the rather depressing finding that only 17% of CMI research insight groups, or whatever you call them, actually think they're championing the customer. And if they're not doing it, I'd like to know who is. Sorry, that's 44%. But we actually have a number of 16% who believe that they are developing strategic partnerships with their enablers. So that means that clients are not working with agencies to develop solutions to some of these problems. And you heard Dan from Unilever say researchers could do more. Well, yes, Dan, we could. We're a bit like sort of intellectual scavengers. We will borrow ideas and suggestions and methodologies from anywhere. But to take the risks to create some of this, we need the strategic partnerships like creative agencies can have with the clients. And there's another challenge for marketers. If you want to use innovative, groundbreaking insight, develop the strategic challenge with your research agency. Finally, there was a lot about culture today. And I probably actually should show you what the Wheel of Fortune looks like. These are the factors that go into that piece of research. You can all go and do it for yourselves. It's a framework that's free on the website. We have 2 best practice examples, one from commercial and also from public policy. Because please don't forget that insight and evidence should drive public policy as well as marketing. For effective public policy, I'm not sure if it really happens. So, we did hear about culture, and we don't hear enough about culture. We don't hear enough about stakeholder engagement, and I don't think enough leaders get enough credit for that part of the work that they do. I don't think we measure it well enough. I don't think there are any measurements for internal engagement. But in defense of segmentation, in defense of pretty words and descriptors for our customers, it does make for much more understandable communications inside. And those people who believe you inside tend to support you and go and do what you want them to do outside. So if all of your ambassadors understand the algorithm, that's fine. I would venture that they probably don't, and I would venture that they probably won't. So you do have a translation job to do inside as well. So I think that was a really exciting morning. I hope you're not going to go and slit your throats because of Tom's comments on data. I hope you take more from the second set of sessions, which sound more hopeful. I always have this niggling worry that when marketers are optimistic, they've forgotten that they've not done half of their homework. And I speak as an ex-marketer. So good luck, and I hope you can use something with all you've heard today. Thank you.